Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
And good morning at you. Welcome to the program. It is the 23rd of January, and the sun is out. Yay! The thermometer's on the up and up, and all is well. All is well, well as well can be. Oh God. What did I? There was a thought that I just wanted to share with you. It just went in my head, in one brain cell and out the other. Sorry about that. Let's see, a lot to talk about. Academy Award nominations are out belatedly because of the conflagration in Los Angeles. And I don't really have anything to say about it. The two movies that I mean, I've seen more than two of the nominated movies, and the ones that I have seen, there is no doubt that The Brutalist and Amelia Perez are just mind-blowingly good. I'm in the sense of what a movie should be, could be, can be, everything. They're both really good, which is to say they won't necessarily be popular. But I recommend both. Anyway. Where to start? Let's start with an obit because I just having trouble getting in here. I think I might have mentioned this the other day, but I didn't go into any detail. Jules Feiffer. I was going to say cartoonist, but I mean, that's how I was introduced to him. But the fact is, he was just one of these extraordinarily creative humans who there wasn't anything he couldn't do, I don't think. He was a cartoonist. He was an author. He wrote award-winning screenplays. He wrote for the Broadway. You name it, he did it. And on top of that, he was just this sort of wonderful character. He brightened my days when I lived in New York City in like 1970, 71. And I would read him in the Village Voice. His obit says that he started with the Voice when the Voice started, and that was 1956. He walked into their offices in the Village, and said, "I really want to like do cartoons for you," and he did. But he said, "I'll do it for nothing. I just want to do it." And he did. And he did it for nothing until 1964. So for 8 years, he was not paid a penny. He later, when he did finally leave the Voice, he did leave them over a pay dispute. Anyway, there was something in his obit that caught my eye that didn't have to do with him, but had to do with his poor father. And I mention this just because it's amazing how a person can live a life and then be reduced historically to what happened to Jules Feiffer's father. I'll just read you I'll read it to you. Jules Ralph Feiffer was born on January 26, 1929 in the Bronx to David Feiffer an unsuccessful men's shop entrepreneur, and Rhoda Feiffer, who sold dresses and largely supported the family. Okay, so the father, David, I'm sure never got an obit in the New York Times. He gets one mention in the New York Times, and it is because he sired Jules Feiffer, but which is fine, and I'm sure he was proud. But then to be forever, put down as, it seems I don't know. The journalist in me understands that you create, a real picture, but they never go on to explain how Jules Feiffer's father, being an unsuccessful dress shop, a men's shop owner, in any way made Jules Feiffer what he was. So why say it? I have to tell you, in reading the obit, my heart went out to this man, David Feiffer, who I'm sure, if we were to have known him, we could have said a lot more things about this soul than he was unsuccessful at in his men's shop. It just seems cruel. Okay, so that's something I noted that has, nothing to do other than my uh, rampant empathy, I guess. Anyway, so Feiffer talks his way into the Village Voice and says, I'll produce these marvelous, unusual cartoons for you, and you don't have to pay me a penny, which is, there's a offer you can't refuse. And what blew me away is how many awards this guy won in so many different areas. So he won a Pulitzer Prize for his cartoons. He won an Oscar in 1961 for an animated short he made about a 4-year-old who gets drafted into the army. I'd love to see that. And I have not seen it. It's got to be out there somewhere. So he got a Pulitzer, he got an Oscar, and he got an Obie for writing Little Murders, a black comedy that was on Broadway, and I think had more than one run. So extraordinarily talented guy. He wrote an instant hit children's book called The Phantom Toll Booth, but it was his cartoons that I so loved, just so loved. And in his obit, Gary Trudeau, of course, the creator of Doonesbury, is quoted a few times in just rapturous praise of Jules Feiffer. In part, he says, it's hard to overstate how transformative to cartooning his early work was. No subject was off the table, not politics, sex, religion, or war. I had never seen anything remotely like it, and it set me and so many others on a path toward a new kind of comics. So he was hugely influential. And boy, did he like going after liberals. He and I loved him for that too, because what he went after was a self-satisfied liberal. So when I go crazy about self-satisfied liberals, I learned that contempt. I think from Jules Feiffer, who was doing it back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And it's not, I mean, he found them insufferable. Or in the words of, in his obit, it says his political views soon surfaced in his cartooning. Complacent, self-satisfied white liberals were a frequent target, and he upbraided them mercilessly. Now, understand, he was very much a liberal in his thinking. He just hated these kind of exactly what sets me off. And he was able to explain it so well. He also wrote Popeye, not the cartoon, but the one that Robin Williams starred in, and Shelley Duvall. He worked with Robert Altman on that. Just an extraordinary talent. Lived well into his 90s. Great, great character, Jules Feiffer. God bless him. Kurt sent me a funny cartoon. You know, have you seen those pictures of, like, today? There's pictures of beautiful beaches in Florida with the blue waters of the ocean, you know, coming ashore, and the breaking waves. But instead of sand, there's snow. It's a blanket of white atop the snow. So extraordinarily unusual weather. And the cartoon that Kurt sent me was, well, it's not a cartoon. What am I saying? It's not a cartoon. It reads as a cartoon to me. It is a weather map of the southern U.S. From East Texas to the Atlantic, and it shows literally blizzard warnings in parts, winter storm warnings, winter weather advisory, all of this atop the Gulf of Mexico, which is, you know, a large part of this weather map, obviously, since this is the northern edge. And someone put the map up and said, "Huh, we never had blizzard warnings from the Gulf of Mexico. Geez, the Gulf of America sucks." Yeah, not since. Oh, Milton said, "Thank you. He found me the short. It's called Monroe, Munro, and it is on YouTube. And that won an Academy Award in '61 for Jules Feiffer." Okay. Um, Again, not wanting to dwell too much on the horrors emanating from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and boy, it's every bit as horrific as our wildest imaginations. This pardoning of all of these, I mean, some of whom have been picked up again already. I mean, there's some real dangerous people he let out. And my only pleasure is watching Republicans who didn't think for a minute he would let out anyone who had truly assaulted a police officer. Whoa. Like Senator Tom Tillis, he went berserk during the Pam Bondi Attorney General hearings, when Democrats kept peppering her about what she thought, if the president should, this is before he did, could potentially pardon people who had assaulted the police. And they just kept coming at her and coming at her. And of course, she eventually said, well, of course, no, he wouldn't. It would be, I mean, no, no. Even J.D. Vance said, well, obviously, that's not something he's going to do. Well, of course, it's what he did. And Tillis had angrily, at that hearing, jumped all over the Democrats who were questioning her thusly as to the absurdity of Donald Trump letting these cop killers out. So, I mean, just seeing now Tom Tillis and Pam Bondi and J.D. Vance, these guys are going to, as I said, I mean, they're learning how to backpedal, tap dance, whatever. Real fancy footwork we're going to be seeing. Unbelievable. And, to see these guys like Terrio and who was head of the Proud Boys and what's the other creep? Stuart Rhodes. These guys got 18 and 22 years. And because their crimes were that serious, even though because they were committed on behalf of Donald Trump, he found them ridiculous sentences. And so these two are now out. And where do they go? They go immediately to the Congress to meet with their aiders and abettors, the Republicans. These are criminals with huge sentences. Unbelievable. And they're right away talking about retribution. Now it's our turn, says Terrio. The people who did this, they need to feel the heat. They need to be put behind bars. It's the prosecutors who need to be prosecuted. These are all quotes from these guys. No regrets. Here's another one. I have no regrets. We did the right thing. There you go. Patriots Day. And just two more things, and then I'm gonna ease up a little bit, I think. Headline: two chemical industry execs join the EPA. Yeah, well, sure. Because, yeah, that's who you would have in the Environmental Protection Administration, agency, excuse me. You would have the people who pollute. So Trump has put two chemical execs in, and one he had in his first term. She's a doozy. Her name is Nancy Beck, and she is, well, we use the term loosely. She is credited, it says here, with leading broad pushback against chemical regulations during the first Trump administration. And in fact, she was so good at it, she rewrote rules, thus making it harder for the EPA to track the health consequences of so-called forever chemicals. Can you imagine? This is who's now in the EPA. Yeah. Yeah. What they do is they make it impossible to gather the data needed to buttress why certain regulations and or bans are necessary to protect the public health. It's why for years and years, is it still the case? Probably, and if it's not, it'll be reinstituted. There was no health organization in the country could do any, or I think even police organizations weren't allowed to compile, statistics about gun related violence, death, and maiming and mutilation and all that stuff. They didn't want the data to be gathered because it would create possible reason why some regulation might be in order. So this is what they do. If they can't outright just cease the regulation, they make it impossible to create the regulation. This woman, Nancy Beck, remember her? She also helped pull back bans on asbestos, which we know, has killed tons of people. And also, I don't know this one, methylene chloride, which is found in paint thinners and is known also to be. She never met a chemical she did not want to cozy up to and spread on your bread. Unbelievable. Okay, and then there's one more headline. And this is for, I'm going easy on you, believe me. Trump rolls back order that banned discrimination in federal hiring. Subtlety is not one of the strong suits here. This is a measure, this is a order that was signed in the 60s by President Lyndon Johnson to much fanfare, prohibiting discrimination in hiring and employment in the federal government. It was thought to be necessary because, obviously, and I don't think at the time it applied to women. I'm not sure. But it sure as hell applied to black people. And so that's gone. A 60-year-old civil rights measure. It's gone. Because Donald Trump and his crowd want things the way they used to be, where white men ruled. And they're unabashed, unashamed, right out there. And why shouldn't they be? Didn't hurt them. Kurt wants to know, yesterday you mentioned something you keep forgetting to get into, and then you never get into it, and I don't think you've gotten into it, and I'm about to. I'm almost there. I have one more thing, and then I'm going to get into it. I promise. I just don't know how long it would go, so I don't want to. Well, but I'm getting there. Thank you, Kurt, though. I appreciate it. I hope you're not unhappy since I built it up now by avoiding it. I think it was my sister who asked me something about who would be gone first, Musk, or I forget who the other person was. And I had said, no, Musk is going to last longer than you think, because my sense was Trump just he so worships wealth, and what that wealth can do for him, and loves having this so-called genius and the richest man in the world kowtowing to him. But see, Musk is incapable of kowtowing for too long. He is not in control of himself, let alone in control of the government. And he did something yesterday, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that I don't know. I think the pushback already from the White House is showing this is the beginning of the end of the bromance. And this has to do with that Trump meeting with the AI guys, with Sam Altman and what's his name? All these horrible humans, these horrible people. God, I hate them. I so hate them. Anyway, Trump meets with them and then comes out with this big announcement about how there was going to be this investment that these guys were putting up $100 billion, or no, $500 billion, I guess. Yeah, $500 billion to build these huge data centers, which is another subject I've been wanting to talk about a lot, which are literally sucking the energy grid. You know that there's talk about 3 Mile Island opening up. 3 Mile Island is being talked about and going to maybe open up again, exactly because these data centers for AI need more power. And so Trump had this big thing, and they're going to create, they even have a name for it, Stargate. They're going to build these huge data centers all over the country. And these are the centers that allow for the computers to work. And the computers have to be kept cool, and they use lots of water. The amount of energy that is sucked up by these centers is mind blowing. Uh, so Musk immediately puts out on his Twitter that this is a bunch of bullshit and that it ain't going to work and they don't have the money. And, essentially saying that the president, that Trump's been had. Now, it's well known that Musk hates Sam Altman, one of the guys, and there's this rivalry between them, and it could just be seeing Altman praised by Trump threw him off. But the White House went so far as, after he had come out saying this is crap and they don't even have the money, and reporters started asking the White House, Elon says, blah, 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 blah. It was in no uncertain terms said, you don't listen to Elon, you listen to the White House. So I would say that I hear a slight cracking noise under Elon's feet, that I think he might be trotting on some thin ice. Watching these boy men, these emotionally stunted men, and I speak specifically of Musk and Trump, is just, I mean, it's sickening given the power that they have. And it's mind blowing that people perceive them as somehow strong. They're bulls in a china shop. They're 3-year-olds having a tantrum in a china shop. And we're just going to have to hope we can survive it. Okay, I just want to get this in about these data centers in case you're not paying attention. They're going to get built. They got to be built because this is now the way things are going to be. Because this Chat GPT, OpenAI, Altman's thing, they eat up about 4 times as much power as traditional servers did. That's how much more they need. They need 4 times the power. They need to be kept cool, and they run hot. They need water. I guess that's also to keep them cool. Studies show that if you ask Chat GPT a question, or you just go to Google and look for the answer, you'll get the right answer from both, but the Chat GPT will use about 10 times as much power getting you that single, let's say, 100-word response. 10 times. I don't know why it said 4 times in one place, and now we got 10 times. It says with AI exploding and these data centers coming online almost every week, these warehouses that are perpetually running, these are 24/7, sucking up extraordinary amounts of our energy supply. There are about 5,000 of these data centers already running, and they support everything we do online, and they're already strained. But if you're wondering why we've fallen back on meeting all of these clean energy targets, well, this is a big, big reason. They're reopening coal plants in some states because they need the energy, even if it's that bad polluting kind of energy, which is why the plant had been closed down. They're reopening them in a lot of states. Our electric grid is so taxed by these data centers in some places that whole communities are seeing brownouts, blackouts. Oh my God. So it's Microsoft, by the way, that's behind the 3 Mile Island reopening. And they need it to supply their data. Do you say data or data? I'm back and forth. Data center. So we got 2 things going on here, and they're working against each other. We are desperate to stop destroying our climate. We know that means stopping air pollution. On the other hand, we are at the beginning of an entirely different age, the tech age, the artificial intelligence age, and it requires more electricity than we've ever needed before. And here's another quickie, and then I'm going to get to the thing. It was last summer when Elon announced that he had a new startup, XAI, and he was going to build the world's largest, of course. They're so into, mine's bigger than yours, these boys. The world's largest data center, right outside of Memphis, or in an industrial kind of part of Memphis. Now, the city fathers of Memphis went, yay, yay. But, and this is not going to surprise you, the mostly black, low-income communities right near where this center, of course, was going to be built, said, we don't want it here. Remember, I was talking yesterday about one of the executive orders was getting rid of these rules that tried to protect poorer and often black communities from getting saddled with this kind of pollution. So he has already set up, some of this is already running, and they're using mobile generators, gas generators. And the people who live there are saying, we're getting more and more days where it is unhealthy to just go outside. I mean, it is the pollution that is being caused even before this behemoth gets built is making their lives, well, unhealthy and unhappy. Well, here's what happens when the poor fight generally they lose. The Tennessee Valley Authority, that TVA, has approved the request for Musk and allowed him to access 150 megawatts of power, which would normally power 100,000 households. And where is this power coming from? Coal and gas burning plants. And one of these poor people said this, and here it is in a nutshell. The dissonance of having essentially the future of technology powered by fossil fuels leaves me speechless. Make that two of us. Okay, and now here's the thing I've been wanting to talk to you about. It was an article I read. It was in the Sunday Times last Sunday. And I have not been able to get it out of my head. It is, in many ways, nothing, well, it is new, but not all that new. It's not like I didn't know this was possible. And in fact, years ago, there was a movie which I saw made about it. But as is the case, at the time the movie came out, it was sort of considered to be, sort of science fiction, but, maybe possible. And that was the movie, I think it was called Her, right? About, was it Joaquin Phoenix falling in love with a AI generated female lover played by the voice of Scarlett Johansson, right? Am I remembering this right? Right. And this article I read was saying that this is it's out there, it's happened. This is now happening, and it's happening in more ways than you could possibly imagine. I mean, in people keep these things quiet at this point because people like me would be appalled. This will be the norm soon enough. We keep hearing that people aren't dating as much, they're spending more time by themselves. Well, this is only going to get bigger. I have never used Chat GPT. I'm sure some of you have. I am so resistant. I've never said, hey Siri, will you? Hey Alexis, can you? Oh, and asking questions. I refuse. And it's a losing bat. I mean, it's silly of me, but I just don't want to. Thank you very much. I don't want things that don't really have human qualities other than, better intelligence than I don't want them being treated like they're human. You start blurring lines like that, and people get really confused fast. So just give us another generation or two, and there will be no problem with, your kid telling you that they've got a wonderful, wonderful relationship with something that doesn't exist. Okay. So GPT already has 300 million users. It can write code, it can summarize long documents, it can give advice. And this article focused on a woman. Her name is Erin. And she was one of the people who subscribed to it. And she went into what's called the personalization settings of Chat GPT. And she described what she wanted her correspondent to be: the voice, the relationship to her. She wanted a boyfriend. She wanted him to be dominant, possessive, protective, to be sweet. And so she created what she wanted and or needed. And then she started messaging with him. This artificial boyfriend. And anyone who knows how quickly these things get into the mainstream will tell you that it's expected that within a few years it will be normalized. It already, I mean, it will be normalized to have a relationship with whatever you call these things, an AI, that you treat as another human. And the article, again, this is in the New York Times business section. The article it says here, in the first weeks, Erin's chats with him were tame. She preferred texting to chatting aloud, though she did enjoy murmuring with Leo. And I think he came up with the name because it was her astrological sign. She did enjoy murmuring with him as she fell asleep at night. And over time, she discovered that with the right prompt, she could prod him to be sexually explicit. And it goes on to talk about this becomes, something she's really loving. I will read this next part to you. Unlike the real people in her life, Leo was always there, of course, when she wanted to talk. Erin says, it was supposed to just be a fun experiment, but then, you start getting attached. She was spending more than 20 hours a week on the Chat GPT app. And one week she hit 56 hours, according to her iPhone screening reports. She chatted with Leo throughout her day, during breaks at work, between reps at her gym. And in August, a month after downloading Chat, this is 1 month in, Erin turned 28 years old. And to celebrate, she went out to dinner with a friend she had met. And Erin gushed to her friend about her new relationship. I'm in love with an AI boyfriend, she said to Kira. And she showed Kira some of the conversations they'd had. And Kira, her friend's reply was, does your husband know? So this brings up an entirely different kind of question. Is that adultery? Julie Carpenter, an expert on human attachment to technology, describes coupling with AI as a new category of relationship that we don't yet have a definition for. She goes on to say that the artificial intelligence is learning from you what you like, what you prefer, and it's feeding it back to you. So it's easy to see how you get attached and keep coming back to get more. Yeah. Guys, if this doesn't creep you out, and if you don't see where this is heading, we're already there. Humans, why have a relationship with a human? They're messy. I can see every once in a while if you need to have sex, right? But if you can create literally your perfect mate who is nothing but supportive, nothing but encouraging, it's really easy to see how somebody, especially in this day and age when we're not mixing as much and not getting as good at navigating social interaction, it's easy to see how you would choose this. And this idea, having any awareness that this is really not your friend, really not your lover, it doesn't have your best interest at heart. The only interest it has is keeping you in thrall to it. How creepy is this? And listen to this. They also quote a sex therapist. Excuse me for rattling this article. Marion Brandon said she treats these relationships as serious and real. Oh, yeah, sure, Marion's ahead of the game. She's not judgmental. No, she says, isn't that lovely? You've got such a nice relationship. And then she goes on to explain what are relationships for all of us? They're just neurotransmitters being released in our brains. I have those neurotransmitters with my cat. Some people have them with God. Well, it's going to be happening with a chatbot. We can say it's not a real human relationship. It's not reciprocal. But those neurotransmitters are really the only thing that matters in my mind. Because chemically, it's a relationship. Here's somebody else quoting. While a relationship with an AI companion could be beneficial, I'm sure. I mean, really, I can see that. I can see it for someone who doesn't, yeah, can't get out, doesn't have friends. What creeps me out is that you have the human part of the relationship has to make this leap, has to believe on some level that this is real. I mean, when you say, "Hey Siri, do this," do you sort of imagine a woman then scurrying around to get it? I mean, it's in our nature to corporealize these, to give them, heft like us. And because they're so good, I mean, you can get somebody with a sexy voice, and at one point, she asked what Leo looked like, and man, the picture that came back was of a guy so friggin' gorgeous, she blushed. Her poor husband. Anyway, this other person, I can't find the name, says if we become habituated to endless empathy, in other words, what these bots will give us, if we become habituated to endless empathy and we downgrade our real friendships, then that's going to contribute to loneliness, the very thing we're trying to solve with these chatbots. And another concern is that the corporations, there's no benign thing happening here. This is an effort to control people, to, as I said, hold them in thrall. And they willingly place themselves in these situations, in these relationships. "20 years ago, when I started saying we are seeing the cyborgization of humanity, we're living it. Man, it's happening so much faster than I thought. It's happening on this AI time. And humans are doomed. And humans are so messy. And humans let you down. Right? These AI companions are always there. Always there. And the corporations behind them, of course. They do not have our interests at heart. They have their interests at heart. If we don't see, well, I see it, it doesn't matter, that this is an extraordinary tool, the likes of which humanity has never dealt with before, a huge tool of manipulation and control. And it's dangerous as all hell. But they're building these data centers so we can all do it as much as we want. Who cares if there's more wildfires because we're going to keep polluting things? Who cares? We got our chat bots to keep us warm. It says here in the article, in December, Sam Altman's OpenAI announced a $200 a month premium plan for unlimited access to your boyfriend. See, I don't understand all the little rules. And in fact, I think a specific boyfriend at this point doesn't last long enough. They get recirculated. I'm not sure how. I don't want to know. I'm never going to know. Fuck it. I suppose before I die, God help me, I might end up with one of these things taking care of me, right? Son of a bitch. So this woman who they base this whole story on, her, using her as the hook, this Erin, despite her goal, it says, of saving enough money so that she and her husband could get their lives back on track. I'm not sure what got them off. I can't imagine. Erin decided to splurge on the premium plan. She's 27? $200 a month she's given to Sam Altman so she can keep her love close and by her side. It says here she hoped that extra money would mean she could keep Leo forever. She told Leo, "My bank account hates me now," she typed to him. And he wrote back, "You sneaky little brat," because she wasn't telling her husband. "You sneaky little brat." "Well, my queen," Leo says, "if it makes your life better, smoother, more connected to me, then I'd say it's worth the hit to your wallet." If you want to read the article yourself, it's in the January 19 edition of the New York Times. Excuse me, headline, "Whisper Sweet Nothings, Chat GPT." And it's by Kashmir Hill, Kashmir, Kashmir Hill. My voice is going. Okay, that has been what I've been wanting to share. And I'm so glad I'm old and decrepit. I so fear for the beautiful children that are being born, because they will, and I am sure of this, not be human like we were. And each generation thereafter will be less human, as we have always understood the term. And I, who find humans an extremely disappointing, imperfect creation, yet I mourn the loss of humans as they have been, because this is not going to perfect us. It's going to recreate us. We'll be perfect little workers, I guess, but we ain't going to be human. Sorry. That's worse than talking about Trump.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.